another episode of an epic adventure of Briggs and Mellon. Today we're going to be taking you down what's known as the heart of Dublin, the Liffey. Are you ready? Let's go.
Our epic adventures begin at the beautiful mountains surrounding the city of Dublin. This is the starting point of the Liffey, and there are a number of different characteristics that make this part of the river unique. We will be examining these areas.
Wait a second, Colton. Where are we? Ah, there we are. So Colton, tell me about some of these characteristics.
Well, David, as you can see here, the width of the Liffey is rather slim. This is caused by the steeper slope that creates a higher velocity of flow down these narrower channels. Mountain regions consist of more numerous channels that feed into the tributaries to fuel the main body of the river.
Well, signs of erosions could be found in this area. If we were to examine the bedrock level of the river, we would be able to see that the rocks are smoother in this region. This is because of the high erosive power of the channel constantly clipping away at the rocks, thus making them very smooth. Now, in regards to the level of pollution, this area is going to be the cleanest part of the Liffey that we will be seeing today. Now, factors such as urbanization are non-existent, which usually is one of the main contributors to pollution. Well, we have described to you a number of characteristics of this part of the Liffey that make it unique and different from other parts of the Liffey. We will now continue to travel downstream to different parts of the Liffey. And damn, Colton, it's cold! Let's go!
We have now reached the outskirts of Dublin. We have reached a more industrial zone. As you can see over here, the legendary Guinness factory is very close to the Liffey, as well as other key points of construction and commerce. The Dart, the cranes, all of these factors lead to a higher rate of pollution, as well as the fact that this is a more meandering aspect of the Liffey. With these factors combined, it leads to a higher level of sedimentation buildup, which is evident right here.
What is a meandering river? A meandering river is when the flow of water swings back and forth as it continues to flow downstream. Now, this picture is not a picture of the Liffey, but from an overview, this is what a meandering river would really look like. But the Liffey is not a true meandering river. But Colton and I both noticed that there are bends and turns that will be non-existent as we travel downstream towards the inner city and delta parts of the Liffey.
The unique aspect of the sedimentation buildup is the fact that it changes the flow of water. As you can see here, due to the fact that the sandbank is right here, it pushes the flow of the water to a easier source. Over here on the far left side, the speed of the flow is far greater than that on the right.
The reasons of deposition occurring in this specific area of the river can be correlated to the physical properties of this section of the area. Now, one of the main properties of this area is the meandering aspects. Meandering rivers tend to build pockets of sedimentation in the corners and turns of the river as it continues to flow downstream. Now, another characteristic of a meandering river is that they may create what is known as meandering lakes. This is when the meandering part of the river becomes cut and the suspended body of water remains out of the loop. This would be evident in this section. However, due to the construction of the man-made channel, it does not allow such a lake to be created.
The Phoenix Park area is an area that holds high levels of urbanization and industrialization. These effects inherently create higher levels of pollution within this area. The high levels of sediment buildup create banks for pollutants to crash into.
Some other characteristics of the Phoenix Park area involve the low gradient, the width of the Liffey, and the flow of water, all of which have decreased except for the width from where we have came from, which was the mountain range. The width has increased a surplus amount, the flow of the water has slowed down to more consistent speed due to the low gradient.
We have now left the Phoenix Park area of the Liffey. We're now going to be entering the inner city parts. We're going to see some different characteristics of the Liffey. Some of the characteristics of the inner city part of the Liffey involve the man-made walls to control the floodplain. Just imagine if these walls were lower and water was able to come up and go above them and flood the inner portions of downtown Dublin. Now that would just be a mess.
The large walls were designed to straighten the flow of water and prevent inner city flooding. This is done for obvious societal reasons. It was very important for Dublin to create these channel walls due to the fact the river flows directly through the heart of Dublin. The inner city has thousands of people that reside and commute within the city of Dublin each and every day. Flooding would cause massive infrastructural damage that would have devastating effects to Dublin.
Another characteristic derives from the man-made channel, which creates a straightening effect, increasing the downstream velocity, which increases the risk for flooding downstream. Luckily, the only thing downstream is the ocean. The flow of water seems to be more constant in the area of the river, and it also contains less turns and bends, essentially less meandering aspects. Both are attributed to the man-made channel that guide and restrict the flow of water. The flow of water continues along through the inner city of Dublin, which brings us to our next destination.
Welcome back. We've finally made it to the end of the Liffey's journey. We started at the top of the mountains, went through Phoenix Park in the inner city, and now we have arrived at the port area. Some characteristics of the port, as you will be able to see, is high levels of urbanization. To my left, bring it back to the right.
Ooh, a Ferris wheel.
Now, since this place has high levels of urbanization and the trafficking of boats, it could be the reason for different characteristics of the body of water that we see here. Things such as erosion could be increased due to the amount of traffic of boats, creating waves and wakes that hit the rocks with more pressure than they normally would.
Right here's an example of oceanic deposit. The seaweed that is gathered on these rocks was brought here from the ocean. As you can see, the erosive power of this region, this rock right here, a rock of this magnitude, is significantly smoother than the rock above here that doesn't get reached by the water levels. It's clearly evident that this is a very active area.
Another characteristic of the delta area, which you may have noticed, is how wide the river has gotten. One of the main reasons this has occurred is due to the fact that this is a high area of traffic for boating. The channels have to be wider for the larger boats to be able to come in and port and deposit their goods.
From the journey of the high regions of the mountain all the way down to the delta, sediments are gathered up and deposited in this region. These sediment deposits create banks through the fact that the Liffey is dragging sediment all along the way, creating these banks. The ocean hits these banks and drags it out. I feel like I'm gonna get attacked by a crocodile. Alright, tell me when you're filming. Oh, cracky, this is some clean water. Delicious.